everyone, welcome back to The Thoughtful Entrepreneur. I am your host, Jen Amos, and I am super stoked, as I always am when I do this show, because it means I get to interview another incredible entrepreneur or small business owner in our world today, doing some amazing things. So let me go ahead and invite our guest today. We have Josh Adler, who is the co-founder and head architect of company ConvrtX. You can learn more about him and his company at ConvrtX.com. That's spelled ConvrtX.com. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a total pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. I started doing this in 2020. I like to do like mental health check-ins. So I thought I'd check in with you. How have things been going since these interesting times? I'm not going to call it new normal because it's still changing. So how have you been holding up?
For sure. No, definitely. It's a huge adjustment, to say the least, with the whole kind of world almost in lockdown and in standstill, whether it's the financial markets or kind of really anything. And it's, I guess, from a mental health perspective or just kind of an overall perspective, it's crazy to think that everyone went from that mentality of working in an office and having your small little cubicle to now working from home.
Yeah.
And crazy to think that not just one country in the world has changed that belief, but everywhere in the world has really kind of fundamentally made that huge kind of shift.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that you were nicely dressed today. I'm curious to know if you had to make that shift yourself, working from an office to now working from home.
For sure. No, definitely. It's crucial for me that regardless if I have my camera on or I don't in meetings, I always like to dress up. I'm that kind of person.
Yeah.
Being a young entrepreneur, you always have to be very kind of presentable. But it's definitely very interesting having the ability to walk downstairs, go grab food from your kitchen, or walk back up to your bedroom, grab a nap, and then go back to your office, go back to work. And it's a very different mentality than it used to be, because if you were sleeping in your office before, your boss is knocking on your desk and trying to wake you up. And now the mentality is, it's normal if you want to take a nap midday.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you described that. It's like, even for me, my husband and I work in different places of the house right now. Like he gets to keep the living room, and I have my own office here. But yeah, our kitchen has kind of become that, place where employees take it easy, grab. I mean, it's just us, obviously, but it's kind of, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go downstairs and pull whatever I have in the kitchen, and then I can lay in bed if I want to, my own bed. It's just a couple steps away, and I can make my own coffee, my favorite coffee brand. I don't have to submit to whatever coffee, cheap coffee is in the office. And so I really like your perspective on that, Josh.
For sure. And it's crazy to think that the world made the shift so quickly, but it's really nice to see as well that so many people have adapted so well in an interesting way. That if you told someone 5 years ago, everyone in every single office across the United States and Canada and almost everywhere in the world is going to start working from home, people would be like, you're crazy. In the same way people said the internet was crazy. And the whole kind of .com burst and all that kind of stuff. But nowadays, if you're not working from home, people are like, are you serious?
Yeah, it's what are you, is it safe to be in the office? Are they blocking times for employees to show up at certain times? I definitely, I have a girlfriend who, her company her work did tell her to work from home for a couple of weeks, but now they sort of stagger the times when the employees come in. So they really have their own office space to themselves, instead of having a number of people in in different cubicles, in the same vicinity. So it is interesting for people who have, kept to meeting in person, how even that has dramatically shifted.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's even nowadays when some of my clients say, oh, let's meet in person. I'm like, are you crazy? But at the same time, the world is looking at COVID like a nuclear bomb went off. Literally, that's the feeling I have sometimes. The streets are empty almost in Toronto when it first happened. Now it's a different conversation, but it's changed the entire way that people interact. People are with people. You don't meet up with friends in the same way. You don't party the same way. The world's made an entire shift, which is crazy to think it happened that quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and shift gears, Josh. I want to get to know you more as a business owner. So your company is ConvrtX. And so for people that are hearing about your company for the first time, what should they know about it? And who are the type of people you like working with?
For sure. That's a really interesting question. And at ConvrtX, it's very different from many other companies. When you're in the software development realm, a lot of these kind of companies either focus on Fortune 500, large corporations, and that's really it. And it's really sad to me. But you have these companies like Y Combinator and Techstars, and they're awesome and great and very unique companies. But at the same time, what's really kind of interesting to me and very awkward is there's no one focusing on these regular day individuals that have brilliant ideas that they want to take forth and really scale. And some of these individuals have no business knowledge, like none. They've never ran a business before. They've never done anything big in their life other than go to university or be in the army, or there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but more than anything, it's they never had the opportunity, right? No one ever said, you know what, let me help you. And it's because luckily enough, and I'm very grateful of this, I was brought up in a family where I had the opportunity to do something like that, where it was sort of pushed upon me to start a business, and it was quite kind of assumed.
Wow. Right? I wish I grew up in your family.
It's a very interesting dynamic, to say the least. I'll definitely do that. But with a lot of these founders, we recognize this and we say, okay, you have a brilliant idea. Maybe you don't have the funding, or maybe you don't have the capacity to bring it all the way to market and launch. But we take those brilliant ideas from that embryonic stage, from over here, all the way over here, where it's kind of bearing fruit and in the market and actually live and gaining user adoption and growing and providing these unbelievable and brilliant entrepreneurs the access to really kind of scale their idea and proliferate it into the stratosphere.
Wow. I think that's absolutely incredible. And I think you're right. You know, when I think about a lot of software engineering companies, or even people who want to pursue a software engineer, they're always thinking about working for the bigger companies, where there is a lot of people who, and I'm wondering if they're doing that maybe because, you know, the pay or the revenue will be a lot higher than working with like a smaller business. But the reality is, you know, we all started somewhere. And I think in today's times, there's what we call the accidental entrepreneur. You know, someone who fell into business because they had to, or there was a catalyst where they're like, I need to have an extra source of income, or I have a solution that no one else is providing. And those type of people need help. And so I think it's really awesome that you saw, you know, kind of this neglected audience in a way, and you're serving them in this manner. So I think that's incredibly amazing.
No, definitely. And it's not only where we help out with just software alone, and that's really where it's critical. It's being a founder and being someone that's also quite young in the industry as well. I've launched several apps before this, and it's the obstacles that I faced. I said, why can't I help people with this thing, with these kind of obstacles, rather than just being a traditional kind of software developer? Focus on kind of much more than that and say, okay, you have a brilliant idea. That's stage one. Next is putting together a really strong business strategy, because you're building a business at the end of the day. You're not building an app. Right? Like, and that's what so many people miss. And it's like kind of mind blowing to me that so many people think like all I need is a software developer, where they're going to take your money, they're going to build the app, and they're going to walk away. And that's almost like me saying to you, I'm going to launch a business for you. I'm going to put all the pieces in play, and I'm not even going to look if it's profitable enough or not beforehand. And then after that, I'm just going to leave it to you and wish you good luck. You'd call me crazy. But that's what software development is. And it works for corporate companies, but it doesn't work for founders.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very commonly known that when people have an ideal service or solution, or they have a talent, somehow there's this weird expectation that because you have that, people are going to be interested. But the biggest thing that these creative people need to gain are the business and the marketing skills, because no one's going to care unless you put it in front of them. And you talk about it in a way where they feel like and know like it can add more to their life.
Exactly. And I totally agree with that point. And it's a lot of people kind of go for that kind of people that have that brilliance because they're developers, and you look at them almost like they have witchcraft, or they're magicians, and it's to most people, they turn on an iPhone and they're like, how does this even work? I had a buddy the other day, and I had an hour-long conversation with him, and I've never experienced this in my life, but he said there has to be something moving inside these iPhones. Yeah. And I'm trying to explain it to him that no, it's circuit boards and it's integrated electronics, and it's remarkable with how advanced iPhones and Samsung phones and all this different tech has gotten. But at its core, the software developers are building the tech that makes it that allows it to work. And most people kind of just think that because they're building it and they're so good at that really any software developer is a genius, which I don't think. Personally, to get the title of a genius, it takes a lot. And I think that's a very overused word. It's almost like saying, oh, we have the best ribs in town. Everyone says best. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Or love in the same kind of sense. Everyone says, oh, I love you to their friends and all that kind of stuff. Same kind of mentality. And to me, it's really critical that when you launch any kind of business, you're following with a business focused approach, not a software or not a research or not a analytical approach, but rather a business approach, because you are launching a business. It's almost like a painter saying, let's look at this from an engineering approach.
Right. You're like, good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Where's the creativity going to come?
Yeah, absolutely. Josh, I think it's, I'm very impressed in even just your intelligence and how you're communicating all of this with me right now. You've already mentioned twice, I've been listening very closely, that you consider yourself a young entrepreneur. So tell me about that. Tell me, why do you feel like you're a young entrepreneur? And because to me, it sounds like maybe you might be young, but it sounds like you have the business savviness, maybe from your family, to be young. Like, you may be young, but you already have the skill set, and you grew up in that space. So tell me a little bit more about that.
For sure. And I'm really grateful that I came from a family that I did come from. Most people in life don't get these kind of opportunities. And for me personally, I looked at it as, I need to take this opportunity really kind of and go gung-ho with it, in a sense, and really try to push it to its maximum capacity so I can really kind of build, in a sense, an empire that can really help people at the end of the day. And that's, at its core, indirectly, my goal from the get-go of building ConvrtX was providing jobs. The more entrepreneurs I create, the more jobs I create, and the more I help the world. And that's really, from a very young age, kind of the mentality I had. I want to make a massive impact. But more or less with the young entrepreneur mindset, the question that you asked specifically, it's a lot of people that are my age. I'm in my mid-20s, right? Kind of understanding. But it's a lot of people that are my age are either getting their masters or still in university or just trying to get by. And it's great and all to be in that kind of position where you're really trying to go for education. But it's the kind of family I come from, is that we're known for cutting our teeth in business. And that's really how I look at it. It's as much as you can learn in school, 98% of it, from my perspective, and I'm not trying to discredit anyone else. Everyone has their own views with school. School can be great for some industries and hard for others, or challenging, or kind of not really important for others. But it's 98% of what I learned in school I found to be irrelevant. I'm not going to lie. Right? It's normally in 1 month of running your own company, everything you've learned in school is contradictory. Because you're trained from a very young age, fundamentally, to find a good job and work at a good company, have kids, grow up, get married, all that kind of stuff, retire and live the American dream or Canadian dream or wherever you are in the world dream, right? And it's sad, because every single time that someone's trained to do that, they take a job. Whereas if someone is trained from a very young age to rather create jobs, that's how you change the world. You don't change the world by taking a job. You change the world by creating jobs. And fundamentally, it's to really advance the world and take it from where it is now to where it needs to be over the next 20, 30, 50, 100 years, is there's going to have to be a lot of innovation. I was watching a video last night. The US Treasury was talking about how there's been an explosion of technological companies that have been founded over the past few years. But more than ever now, it's exploding at a rate that no one's ever seen before. We're having our busiest year that I've ever had in business ever in my life. I've never experienced it. I probably hop on 20 to 30 calls a day with different people that are either interested in working with us or existing clients. And it's crazy to see that how many people are just like, I want to create change. I want to revolutionize this industry, or for example, the car industry or the alcohol delivery industry or the working industry or the job hiring industry. Or there's so many different things that can improve so much that it's really remarkable when a few people set their eyes on a target that they can, quite interestingly enough, kind of evolve it and optimize it for the 21st century that we're living in rather than the 20th century.
Yeah. Wow, Josh, I just feel like you are ahead of the game. You are already an old soul in a very young body. And I agree with you. I'm in my young 30s now, and I did the whole go to school to get good grades and hopefully get a good job. And lucky me, at least this is what I'm telling myself, I was fired from 4 jobs in my young 20s. And my friends are like, I don't think you're meant to have a job. And so I feel very fortunate that I had, those the catalysts that I needed 4 times. To really dive into this kind of life. And I can't look back. I feel like I have a bigger mission, a bigger drive, and a sense of responsibility to help a lot of people where, I think our school system in general, from my understanding, school systems are really designed so that you could get a job, you could work for someone else. That's what they're primarily working for, or that's what they're primarily there for. And, if you are maybe trying to go at a slow pace, or you're trying to go at a predictable pace, that's great. But if you want to make impact, and fast, and you want to adapt to the times, especially since 2020, just like what you said, sometimes the educational system could, the information you've learned there could be absolutely obsolete by the time you get out, and even as you're learning it. And so, like you said, it has its purpose, but it's just great to meet young people such as yourself who kind of saw the light earlier, obviously thanks to your family. And rather than, saying like, oh, I know better, it's like you're taking this as a sense of responsibility to help people and to offer and to get more jobs out there in the marketplace. And so, kudos to you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And even following your point, I definitely know what it's like trying to get a job and struggling to kind of fit into the kind of corporate environment, which is quite common, a struggle for many individuals, to say the least.
Yeah.
And for me, I'll be honest, I hate working for people. I absolutely to me, it's like the worst thing ever. I couldn't even imagine doing it. It's just, I don't like following other people's rules. I know that might sound terrible. But when other people set up structure for me, I have trouble following it, and I don't work at my optimal level. Whereas in my personal perspective, if I'm doing my own thing and I'm running my own business and managing people, and even with clients, advising them and having the ability of total freedom, it makes a world of difference. And it's not only do you get to work when you want, I'm not going to lie to you. Every time someone imagines entrepreneur, they think opening bottles of champagne, driving Lamborghinis, and private jets. I'm sorry, that's ludicrous. There's no such thing as that in my life. Like, listen, I've experienced those types of things in my life, and I'm very grateful for that. But that's not what being an entrepreneur is about. It's a lot of saying I'm sorry, a lot of showing up for meetings, a lot of 20+ hour days or all-nighters, and it's a lot of kind of can't make it kind of situations where you're like, family members like, oh, this is happening. You're like, I got meetings, right? Yeah. Which is the truth of reality. And it's not for everyone, but for the ones that are really wanting to create change in some kind of industry or landscape, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And, I think when you have that desire, that kind of desire knows no age. However, I imagine that there's a lot of people in your situation who, let's say, want to take that leap, but they're using youth as an excuse. They're saying, well, I'm too young, or I'm too inexperienced. What do you want to say to those young entrepreneurs that want to be like you when they grow up?
It's honestly, for me, it's my little brother. He's quite inspirational. He's 16 years old, right? He launched a crypto company. He's not even legally old enough to own shares in a company in North America, or Canada at least. Yeah. There's one state in the US, and it doesn't come to mind right now, but legally he can't own shares in one state in the United States. But he's in the Knowledge Society, he's in the DMZ, he's in all these unbelievable programs, and he's trying so hard to kind of get his company and raise capital and kind of grow it. And it's so remarkable that someone that young, that's not even old enough to own shares, is already trying to that level. It's remarkable. And it's when you're really, really young, it's the biggest recommendation I always give to people. And hopefully this doesn't come off the wrong way. It's jump. Honestly, if you have an idea, just do whatever you can and just start stepping in the right direction. It's every single week or every single month, I set a goal for every single week. I'm huge on micro goals and macro goals. Every week I say, okay, let's hit this by the end of the week. And then I work backwards and I say, okay, what do I complete by each day? And I do it on paper. I don't do it on a computer because there's a very big difference between the two. And I just write simple goals. Like, for example, if it's a young entrepreneur, simply spend an hour a day doing some research on your idea. That's really it. Spend an hour today looking to see what the best way to get this rolling is. Or if it's an app, or if it's a brick and mortar you're looking to start, just really kind of just putting your all into it at a very young age is crucial, because most people look at it this way. They say, I'm going to finish high school, go to university, get a job, retire, and whatever. But how they should really be looking at it is, even though you're working a job by then already, why not start a side hustle? Or why not have a side hustle while you're in university? You have all this free time that everyone else is spending partying, and sometimes you are as well. Why not spend that time starting a business, even if it's not profitable? And that's the biggest concern people have. And there's a quote that I love, that I stand by with everything in life. I love winning. I absolutely love it. And to most people, they're like, what's wrong with him? And the reason why is because it makes me appreciate I love losing. And the reason why I love losing is because it makes me appreciate winning a lot more.
Yeah.
And that's honestly how I feel. And it's because so many people try to win all the time, but you're not always going to win. Sometimes you get tired in a race, right? Sometimes you can't push that extra mile. But in life, people have the expectation, and society has built this kind of structure where if you're not first and you're second, you're the first loser almost. And that to me is very inaccurate, because it's not about being first, or it's not about being second, it's about trying and really putting your all into it. And if you succeed, great, but it's all a part of the journey. And I've had my failures, I've had my successes, and trust me, I've had a lot of failures. But at the same time too, it's not about the failure. It's about the fact of pushing further and persevering. And the biggest assets of any kind of entrepreneur that I've sort of recognized is perseverance and grit. Yeah. If you're in athletics, or if you're in some kind of sport or something like that, the chances are you're going to be an unbelievable entrepreneur. And the reason why I say this is because those people just keep pushing. Simply at its core, that's what it is. And that's how I look at it too. But hopefully that all makes it.
Yeah, the common theme I heard in what you're talking is that, kind of going back to what our educational system has, I'm gonna be rash about this, what they lied to us about is that there is such thing as a destination. To me, destination is when you pass away. Destination is like, the end of your life. So if you look at it that way, life is really a journey, and it's all about growth. It's all about like just being the best version of yourself, or the better version of yourself every day. And I think that's really what you're saying is like, it's not about when you get to a certain destination. It's not about, even just wins and losses are almost an illusion. It's a great way to celebrate and have people like, wow, you're amazing. But at the end of the day, it's like, what comes up does come down, right? And ultimately, you don't want to live for the highs or the lows. You just want to focus on growth, like every day, whatever that means for you, whether it's personal growth, professional growth. Obviously, in this case, we're talking about, professional growth in that sense. And I love it. I love it, Josh. I feel like this is a great way to wrap up our conversation. Before we go, tell me, is there anything else you want our listeners to know, whether it's about your company, ConvrtX, or about yourself as a business owner?
No, definitely. And I just want to touch on one last thing, and then I'll get into Convert. Personally, I think it's about the journey, and you're definitely right. And most people ignore that. They're doing it to be that multimillionaire. You don't become an entrepreneur to make money. You become an entrepreneur for the fun itself, and the freedom that you have. But to touch on your last point, we have a website going up right now recently. I worked on quite a while now, actually. I worked on this kind of ebook. It's kind of one of those really short and sweet ebooks. It's the website's called grow.convrtx.com. Feel free to check it out, guys. And it's a really great resource. It's a brutally honest guide that's kind of like really directed and shows you what it takes to kind of found a company.
Perfect. I love it. Josh, wow. I absolutely enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you so much for being here.
No, it's my pleasure. Honestly, it's always interesting talking with another person, and either in a like industry or just overall. It's just sharing ideas.
Yeah, we're part of the same, we're not in the same industry, but definitely have the same type of hustle and and drive. So I see you, I recognize you, I acknowledge you, I appreciate you. And again, thank you so much for being on our show.
It was a total pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and again, to our listeners, this is Josh Adler, the co-founder and head architect of ConvrtX. His company is his website. If you want to learn more about him, you can visit his website at ConvrtX.com. That's spelled ConvrtX.com. And then, Josh, why don't you tell our listeners one more time how they can get access to that ebook?
So it's grow.convrtx.com.
Perfect. Awesome. With that said, thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll chat with you in the next episode. Tune in next time.